مساء الخير. مساء مساء الخير للجميع. السلام عليكم. Uh, I don't know where to start when we are talking about the Palestinian situation. But I will say that my name is Khaled Abu Awwad. I'm the co-director of Roots, a local Palestinian Israel initiative that we are trying to open, in my eyes, the last gate between the two sides, the last gate of negotiation and recognition between the two sides. I am now 56 years old, and I will take the things from how I see the situation, and I will go with all of you a little bit back to the history of the conflict since 1948. Me, as a son of a refugee family, our story with the conflicts start as a family start in 1948, when our village Kubebe near Lachish became under the occupation, and we have been pushing to go out of our village, my parents and my grandfather and the family. So they left the village in 1948. They thought that it's a couple of days and they will be back, but this is continue. We moved to Gush Etzion, where we now have the center of Roots, what we call it the Karama Center, the Dignity Center. So there we start our second station in our family life until in 1967. Again, 1967, the Six-Day War pushed us to leave our house, our second house in Gush Etzion, to Jordan for a couple of days, 10 days, and then the things come down, and my father decided to come back to the West Bank, and we move to a village called Beit Umar. Beit Umar is where we are living nowadays. So we grown there, and there we face uh, the fact that we are refugee family, the fact that there's an occupation, the fact that we have a responsibility to fight our enemy, the fact that our enemy is Israel, the Israel state, the Israel people, and we find the opportunity in 1987, when the first Intifada start. And here I want to stop because it's connected. When the first Intifada start, before the Intifada, yes, we have been a refugee family and we have a lot of hatred against Israel, but also the years before the beginning of the Intifada, I I have been in the age of 18, 17, 18 years old, which means I am one of the youth at that time, and we face the behavior of the Israel army and the Israel blue police. They deal with us in a very bad way. I remember a lot of things happened to me, especially before the Intifada. How there are a lot of checkpoints. When you came to the checkpoint, you have to hold up your hands. You have been treated in a bad way by the soldier. There's no dignity. All our issues is connected to the army. If you want to have an ID identity, if you want to have a certificate, a birthday, a certificate of birth from the army, everything from the army. And if you want it, you have to go a couple of times and to wait for a long term and until you got what you need. So I remember also one day when I came back from on the bus from before I got my ID. I have been in the age of 15 and a half years old when I came back from Bethlehem to Beit Umar in the bus. A checkpoint in Gush Etzion, the soldiers stopped the bus and they went into the bus, bring out your ID. And at that time, I have no ID because the law says that I can have ID only at the age of 16. So when the soldier came to me and asked me, "Where's your ID?" I said, "I still small. I am not in the age, in the legal age that I can have ID." And the soldier said, "You are lying. You are more than 16 years old." And he started beating me. He pushed me out of the bus and he stopped me down and he asked the driver, "Go from here." The driver said, "What about this guy?" He said, "Leave him here and go from here. Go, drive your bus and go away." So the driver start move and the soldier wait until the bus is went from us. And then he told me, "You are lying me. Go walk to your house now." And I do nothing. I know that I didn't lie. I know that I tell the truth. I know that I got punished in an injustice way. This behavior happened a lot before the Intifada, and at the same time that they deal with us in an indignity way, the economic situation at that time, I remember, is perfect. We have a lot of work, we have a lot of money, everyone have a work and money, and the people build houses and everything. So in the economic side, we have been living in a very high level. In the dignity side, we have been suffer a lot in front of the Israel military regime. We have been suffer a lot. There's no dignity for the Palestinian people. So the Intifada started in 1987, and we have been, me, my family, and my friends, we have been part of the Intifada. We fight against the occupation until 1993. We have been arrested, we have been punished a lot, but never mind. We know that we are fighting for our right. So 1993, the first peace agreement. This peace agreement for us, for the Palestinian people, represent the change that we fight now. Our dreams will be achieved because of this agreement. So we are waiting for something more than all the agreement that all the details that they put on Oslo. So the day after the agreement, when the people start living the reality under or let's say the period, the peace period, as a result of this agreement, we start to feel that this is not what we are waiting for. This is not what we are dreaming for. The checkpoint continue to be everywhere. The exit of the Israel army everywhere. The house demolitions. The political arrested of the people, and the all the symptoms of the occupation before the agreement is continue to be the same after the agreement. Actually, more. We got a new words like the division of the West Bank to area A, B, C, which make the people start to give up that there is no peace and there is no hope, and this is lead us to the second intifada in 2000. The second intifada, for in my eyes, is the worst thing that happened in our life and in our history as a Palestinian people, because it's a reaction of no hope, and it's happened without any kind of feeling and control. It's happened just like this. People losing the hope and start deal everyone in his way, different from the first intifada. So we continue with the hope. In 2000, I lost my brother Yusuf, 16th of November, killed by the Israel army. 2002, my brother Said also killed, have been shot by the Israel army and die. In 2004, my son Muayyad have been shot and became a handicapped by the army. And this period we haven't been fight. Actually we've been we became a peace leader, but during this time, most of these bad things happened to us as a family, to me as a Palestinian father. 2004, we lost Yasser Arafat. 2005, we got a new leadership, Mahmoud Abbas. We thought that we will have now a lot of change. Maybe Arafat lead the revolution, and Abu Mazen will lead the peace. He's a peaceful man. He considered one of the engineers of the negotiation in 1973. And we thought that he will lead the change, but we faced with the division between Hamas and Fatah, and the state of Hamas in Gaza and the state of Fatah in the West Bank, and we start losing the hope again. But we as a Palestinian people, we grown in a way that we should be more strong. We should keep the hope. We should keep the feeling of to be optimist about the future all the time, because this is the only thing that gave us the meaning of the life. So we hope that this will be solved, and we continue living under these circumstances until Trump got to the leadership, to the American leadership, when he had been elected, and he started dealing in an injustice way between us as Palestinian and the Israel state, which make the people feel that there is no justice, and we have been in a time that, from one side, we part of our hope is came from the international community and from the position that the American and the British and the French and the German and the European countries play to solve the conflict. But when Trump started deal in this way, the Palestinian people in the street start feel that this will destroy us. He will bring us back, and the peace will not come now. It's far away from us. And then he got the decision to move the capital, the American capital to Jerusalem, and then the annexation plan, which make us feel that everything is going to be worse and worse and worse. And and at that time also, in the last 10 years, because of that there is no peace in our area, the economic situation of the people everywhere in the West Bank and in Gaza became down and down and down, because the Palestinian leadership haven't been changed. There's no strategy plan. The head of the leadership in the Palestinian side, because there's no election because of the division and the conflict between Hamas and Fatah. So there is no serious decision, there is no long-term plan, and there is no short-term plan. They didn't succeed to 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 establish uh, any kind of ground, economic ground for the Palestinian economy. Uh, all the time they talk about the occupation, and under the occupation they cannot nothing succeed and nothing work. Yes, maybe part of it, but also the people are not stupid part of it, because there is no change in the leadership. There is no the position is moved from between a limited group of people, and they lead everything. And then the corona, we start the year 2000 with a very bad economic situation, with the annexation plan of Trump, and with the corona. And as you know, at the beginning of the corona, the Palestinian leadership decided to close everywhere. And imagine when you close the whole villages and cities of in the West Bank, while the people already suffer from a very bad economic situation, and now you told them to stay home. At the beginning, we stay for 3 months, and this has destroyed the situation of the people. And then the people start a demonstration against the decision of closing the cities and villages, and which make the Palestinian Authority change their policy, how to deal with the corona. And then the decision of Trump, or the normalization between Israel and the Arab countries. The normalization between Emirates and the Arab countries and Israel make the Palestinian leadership, not the Palestinian street, the Palestinian leadership feel angry and feel that this is like those countries is build this relationship on the account of the Palestinian people, which means against the Palestinian right and the Palestinian benefit. In the street, the opinion of the people is divided to two sides. Part they've seen on this because they already suffer from a very serious and bad economic situation. They've seen on this like a kind of opening, be opened and connect to the Arab rich countries, and this can make a kind of change. Some people look to this as a kind of not respecting the Palestinian people and the Palestinian rights, and move to have connection with the enemy of the Palestinian people, and which make us in a dilemma in the Palestinian street. And this is affect what we are doing. This is in one side affect the work of the peace camp, the peace people. Like we already before this, we have been attacked. Like we are, what we are doing is a kind of normalization. And our answer at that time is yes, we do normalization. We need a kind of normalization. This is part of the change. This is part of the process of reconciliation that we need in order to have peace from down up. If we want to change the public opinion, we need to bring the people to teach, to learn about each other, about the identity, about the religion, about everything. And this is will make the will raise will increase the trust between the people, which can be a ground for a place where we can really meet and discuss the serious issues of the conflict in a positive way. This is what we are doing as a peace organization. So the normalization between the Arab countries and Israel make this mission more difficult, because like the people start to fight against the normalization with the Arab countries, and and all those who lead to any kind of normalization became in the same campaign in with Arab countries. Uh, so I think we, I think our leadership at the last 2 years didn't deal with the things in a right way. This is my personal opinion. I think we react from a place of anger, and not from our mind, from our clever side of thinking. Uh, in my eyes, the normalization with the Arab countries uh, can, can be a good things for the Palestinian people, because I think that any kind of good connection between the countries and the people in the Middle East, if we look to it in a positive way, it can be a basic relationship that can be developed and help to solve other problems. And instead, and I'm saying that our leadership, instead of taking this as an element that can help to solve the Palestinian Israel conflict and bring the two sides to accept things that they haven't been ready to accept it before, we choose, our leadership choose to fight and to boycott this relationship, or to fight this kind of relationship, which is in my eyes is a mistake. The same as the annexation plan of Trump. Yes, Trump, he's he's شجاع. He's an
Crazy.
animal, huh? Crazy. He's a crazy guy. Yes, but some of what he do, in my eyes, he took a serious decision in part of the things, and he make a lot of mistakes. Yes, but we didn't. We took everything in a negative way. For example, in my eyes, the annexation, the plan of annexation of Trump, instead of saying, okay, that's good, because before this plan, the negotiation and the peace, the peace history between the two sides have been phrased for more than 4 or 5 years. And then this crazy man came with the annexation plan. Instead of saying, okay, thank you, Trump, thank you, America, that you came and you interest and you bring something, okay, you don't need to accept everything, but start from a positive point. Start to look to the things in a different way. That okay, good, but let's make a little bit change to make it good for the two sides as a beginning. But our leadership immediately before we as people know anything about the annexation, I think the annexation plan start and end, and 95% of the people, Palestinian and Israel, know nothing about the detail of the plan. We hear about the Jordan Valley. We hear about that there are lands going to be moved from here to there, but no one of us can tell the right story. What exactly the annexation is? What's going to happen? The details on the ground. No one. Most of us, 95% of us, know nothing. And in my eyes, the decision of the Palestinian leadership to refuse and not to accept from the beginning, instead of taking this as a step to bring the negotiation out of the phrasing a situation to be active, to be on the ground and to start something from this is a little more what's going on in the Palestinian street in these days. We start to be optimist because before 4 or 5 months when the negotiation between Hamas and Fatah start to take a positive direction, and we thought that the division will be ended and we will go back to be together. But the last month, these things is disappear, and again, we thought that we will have an election. We know that I'm not sure. I'm sure. I'm now 80% think that there's no election in January because the two big political parties in the Palestinian area again start fighting. Palestinian Authority in the West Bank return to the coordination with the Israel side, which make all the steps that they took to the direction of union is disappear. Yeah, I think we can open a discussion. I don't want to give a speech as a political person. I want to have a serious discussion together, how we can help each other, how we can learn from all of you. How do you see the things from outside? What do you think about what we tell now? I want to hear my friends from the Israel side, Haggai and Shaul and all my friends. How do they see the situation from their side? Because I tell all the things from my side as a Palestinian person, as someone who live in the Palestinian street.
Khaled, there's some questions coming in. I'm gonna, Judith asked about elections, and you, just as you start to talk about, will there be elections? Can there be elections? And what you said just now about elections, the big question is the two parties running the elections are mostly the Hamas and Fatah. And you mentioned when you described that the split between Hamas and Fatah is between the West Bank and Gaza, right? In 2006, when Hamas won the Legislative Council, then kind of took over Gaza. And since then, Hamas has been ruling Gaza, Fatah in the West Bank. But I have a question about within the West Bank. How do you feel the split? You know, is it something that happens within a family? Is it members in certain villages? What does that split actually look like on the ground in Palestinian society? You know, I know Fatah controls the West Bank, and they're always arresting Hamas activists, and sometimes with the Israelis, sometimes by themselves. And I imagine there's similar pressure on Gaza. But what does it feel like on the street? Like in Beit Ummah, you have Hamas. What does that split look like in Palestinian society today?
One of our one of the problems that we have, that we didn't succeed to pace a democratic way of life in the political level. How to deal as a political parties together, how to deal with the different opinion between us as in the political level. And this is one of the problems. I think the problems between Hamas and Fatah, we've seen it inside the Palestinian families. For example, we have in the Job family, we have one of the sons of the family is a Fatah leader, and the other one is a Hamas leader. We faced with an argue inside the families, people, brothers, fighting each other because they belong to different political parties. Also, I think when we talk about why Oslo since have been signed in 1993 until now, it's actually 27 years ago, and it didn't succeed on the ground. We have a lot of reasons if we analyze it, but one of the main reasons in my eyes is that we didn't succeed to have these big massa, big groups in post society to be big political groups to be part of this agreement. For example, when we have the election in 2006 and Hamas win the election, and the division start between the two big political parties. One of the reasons that Hamas is refused to accept the agreement that Fatah signed on. It's not, they didn't say that we refuse Oslo, but they talk about a lot of change in Oslo, and they will not respect and they don't feel any kind of responsibility. They're blaming us that we fight the terrorist people and the violence. And when they became responsible in Gaza, they start doing the same thing. They find themselves, when they have a responsibility, they find themselves facing the fact that they should fight the terrorists, and they should fight the violence because they want the good for the whole people, and they cannot allow groups here and there to deal and do whatever they want to do. So this is one of the problem that we face in 2006. So in my eyes, any peace agreement should respect and take in a serious way the different opinion of these big. I'm not talking about the individual. These big groups of people, whatever the religious groups, political groups, whatever they are part of the decision, and they should be part of the responsibility in order to succeed to have peace in our area. Secondly, the peace agreement is deal with more with the land than with the human being living on this land. They are talking about Jerusalem. They are talking about where the border of the West Bank, where the Green Line should pass from. And if we lose a piece of land here, we should take instead on that place. And they talk only about stones and land and less about human being. While the human being is the main element that everything is going around and for.
Mm.
So for sure, this kind of agreement cannot be work on the ground because in order to work, it should be suitable for the human being, for the people.
Thank you. I want to pass to George. George Douglas has a question. Yeah.
Oh, hi,
I think
Khaled. One of the more recent developments here is that the Palestinian leadership in the West Bank seems to have changed direction somewhat with the Gulf countries and reestablished, I understand, ambassadors into Bahrain, UAE, and also reestablished security coordination with Israel. Do you think that strengthens the position of the West Bank leadership, basically with their situation with Hamas and the Gaza Strip? Because this kind of isolates Hamas with Iran being their really sole source of support. And this past week, you probably saw the negotiations with the Gulf countries and Qatar. And I think that, brings Qatar over to the other Gulf country side of things. But do you think a stronger relationship with the Gulf countries by the West Bank leadership strengthens their position versus Gaza and is potentially beneficial?
Yeah, yeah. I think we should not take what's happened between Israel and these countries in a negative way. I think this can be if we stop taking this the reaction from the anger place and blaming ourselves or our brothers in these countries. Why do you do this? Instead, if we ask them, okay, you start something serious, we know that Israel very interested and Israel will be ready to give something in order to keep this kind of relationship because it's good. It's a strategy connection for Israel as a country politically and for the people for hundreds of Israel people now planning to go to the Mifrats, to Emirat, to the Gulf. How do you call these countries?
The Gulf states, yeah.
The Gulf states. So,
Gulf.
for this, I think this country, if we connect to this country, if we accept, if we support this, but with the condition that, okay, we will support you, but support us, help us to go out of this stuck point with Israel. Active your pressure on the Israel side to bring them to have, because for Israel, if they can have this relationship without paying anything to the Palestinian people, that will be perfect. And this is the policy of Bibi. Bibi don't want any kind of uh, uh, going on with the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian conflict. At the same point, strengthening this kind and make more and more connection with Arab countries is very good for him. Instead of giving him this, why not to put him in front of a responsibility that if you want this to be continued by accepting this country, by dealing with this country as brothers, not as an enemy, by accept what they do as a positive thing, not only for them, for us. I think this can work more than the involve of the United States nowadays.
If nobody else asks a question, I think Chagai went to ask a question. I can tell. Chagai.
Yeah. First of all, hi, how are you?
هاي حجاي كيف حالك؟
أنا مبسوط شكرا كل شيء
الحمد
تمام.
لله.
I feel, let's say in the Israeli society, there are two things that happen in the COVID pandemic. First of all, the difference between the different political wings got bigger, and People see the situation in very different ways. Sometimes you can't even believe that they're in the same state. I think that there is less, people don't really think that the government knows what to do, and they don't take the restrictions or the guidance that are given seriously, and don't keep themselves enough of the corona or the COVID-19 behaving or the distance keeping, all of things. What's going on in the Palestinian society?
Listen, it's different. If the when the Palestinian Authority, for example, we now in front, we're afraid that we will have a decision from the Palestinian Authority to close the area for 14 or 16 days, which can destroy the situation of the family in a serious way. Yes, we know that the corona issues is became a main element everywhere in this in the different countries, but here in every countries there is a special things, there is a special situations, especially in our side, in the Palestinian side and in Gaza, to close and not to take responsibility about this decision, because Israel, I know they paid the people when they decide to close the area. They paid the people a small amount of money. They pay the business, the different business also small amount of money. We got nothing in the Palestinian side, the opposite. And if you have to pay something, you should pay it, else you will be put in the present. You will be arrested, because in Israel the people cannot be arrested because for money, but in the Palestinian law they can be arrested. This is one of the problems that we have, that the people, the human right of the people, the human values, the Palestinian Authority didn't succeed to respect these things, or to deal with the people in a justice way, and respect the human values of the people. Although they try, but I think we're still far away from this. So the corona element is bringing more damage to the Palestinian economy and to the situation, and bring more yush,
Despair.
despair to the people. And we are suffering from both. Also, any decision taken in Israel, it's also affect our life, because when Israel close, they will stop allowing the Palestinian workers to go to their work, or the Palestinian Saharim, merchants to go and to make their deals.
Khaled, would you say, I think also Chagai asked, do people respect when the Palestinian Authority says everybody must wear a mask? Are people respecting that? How does it look? Is it the cities respect it, the small towns don't? How are people following the guidelines in general?
Yes, some of the people respect. At the beginning, the majority of the people respect this, but when they've seen the outcome of this respect, the people, I told that the people start demonstrate against this. Now the percent of respect to these decisions is much less. It's I think 40 or 50% of the people respect these decisions, and the people also, when we should understand, because of the conflict, because of the bad situations, and I think this is everywhere in the Palestinian area. When your life is going down, the value of the life is became down also. The people start not caring about their health, not caring about their safety, start to take decisions and things because because I hear it from a lot of people that this or this will lead us to death. If we respect, we will be death because we will be hungry. If we don't respect, we will be death because of the disease. So in the two direction, the result is the same. I hear it from a lot of people.
I'm going to ask Alyssa's question, unless she's here, wants to ask. I'll read. What do Palestinians in the West Bank who are not Shaykhim Hamas, what do they feel about Iran and now the alliance of many Arab states against Iran?
Listen, I think Iran represents the Shia. It's a religion division, Shia and Sunni. These two directions, and there's a lot of hatred. First of all, between Shia and Sunni, we don't accept them. They don't accept us, and they don't accept us more than we don't accept them, because they're blaming us that we are the reason of the death of their leader Ali, the friends of Muhammad, and his uncle, and his two sons Hassan and Hussein. And I think this exists also on the political side, and in the relation, in everything happened between us and them. So in the West Bank, we have Hamas, but we have more Fatah and other political parties. And we as Palestinian people, the majority, we refuse it Iran. We don't want Iran. The majority. We have small percent of the people that they've seen Iran as a hero. They've seen because it's the first enemy of Israel. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. But basically they are not friends. They are enemy, and they will continue to be our enemy. And this is how the people. And one of the reasons that most of the Palestinian people are not respect Hamas, because they say that Hamas's agenda is connected to Iran, and Iran's agenda is not built for our benefit or for our goodness. It's built for a strategy plan for them, and if this will end, the first will fight us is Iran. Iran lead the fighting in Yemen. Iran lead a lot of Sunni people have been killed by hand of Iran, or by Iran from under. Iran is under the table behind
Proxy.
these. Yeah. So because of this, you will not find Shi'im in in Palestine. In Palestine, we don't have Shi'im. I didn't hear anywhere there is Shi'im, and we will not have. And most of the Palestinian people are not. Also, in our religious discussion, we have a very serious discussion in the religious sector or side. We are fighting each other. We have a big gap between us. How do they look to the things is not only far away from us, it's actually considered from us a kind of kafir. They want
heresy.
They are not. Yeah.
So Khaled's pointed another commonality between Palestinians and Jews. We both bear the mantle of being accused of killing another people's Messiah. Okay, sorry.
As a religious person, I think you are more close to us than the Sham, than the Iran. You're seriously. I know what you believe, how you think, what you think about God, what you think about Moshe, and.
Yeah. I go to Jesse's question here, and Jesse, if I miss something, let me know. But he wrote, can you guess what percentage of Palestinians? Oh, sorry, I have to go one question back. The question before this, Andrew asked. he's heard that most people in the United Emirates and Bahrain don't support the Abraham Accords, but they cannot speak up because the governments in those countries will punish any criticism. So he asked, do many Palestinians on the street have any interactions with people on the street in the Emiratim or in Bahrain? Is there a connection between the societies?
I don't think the majority is going against their government, because I think the decision to have normalization with Israel is not only by the push of the American side. It starts actually, in my eyes, 3 or 4 years before this. I think we have a lot of change in the understand of Islam, and we reanalyze a lot of books that we got from hundreds of years ago, explaining the Islam to us. So in Emirat, I know the beginning of this changes is start in Emirat. I think in Emirat they start to be more open to think for the new Islam, for the modern Islam, and to check again what we got from the seventh and the eighth and the 6th century. Is it right or wrong? Is it okay for this time or not? Is it is these books explain the religion and the Islam, or is it built to change the Islam to serve the political agenda of the leadership at that time, the Umayyad and the Abbasid? This serious discussion is everywhere in the Islamic countries, especially in the Gulf area, especially there. Most of the discussion that we hear new things is there. And I join a lot of rooms and discussions, and listen to a lot of conference happened there around these things. So I think the modern Islam and the modern understand of Islam is put down all the gaps and the gate that have been put in by the books that explain the Islamic religion in the past, and this new understand is actually give answer that it's not only there's no problem to connect to the Jewish people. It's good to be connected to the Jewish people.
Huh. That was amazing. Interesting. The follow-up to the last part of the question, but what about, we hear a lot about Palestinian relationship with people in Jordan. In Kuwait, there was times. With the people in the Emiratim, is there much connection? If it's not business connection or personal connection and conversation between Palestinians and Bahrainis or Emiratim?
Not that big connection. We are more connected to the Jordan people. Actually, the majority of Jordan, they are originally Palestinian people. And as a society, we and the Jordanian society and the Syrian society and the Lebanon society, which called Bilad al-Sham, we consider as one culture. And the Emiratim and the Gulf countries is the Al-Hijaz and the Saudi al-Hijaz. This different culture. So we are more connected to the countries belong to Bilad al-Sham. We have the same culture, the same behavior, the same look. The connection between people, few people in the Palestinian society have friends there. The connection is more they work there, and most of them the last 20 years they left their work, or they have been their work have been cut, and they move out of these countries. and because of the conflict starting with between Iraq and Kuwait and what continue after that, they consider us like we are not exactly Ne'manim,
Faithful.
a trust for them. Like we've been working in Kuwait, and the moment that Iraq and Kuwait fight, they find that a lot of Palestinian people support Iraq, and which make the Kuwait people angry, and the same days they fire I think 15,000 Palestinian from their jobs, and the relationship continue the same.
Uh-huh. I can move to Jesse's question here. Can you guess what percentage of Palestinians would be favorable to one-state solution together with Israel, with full citizenship and voting rights to all Palestinians, beginning with the West Bank? He says, I know that in Israel is not so popular. What about Palestinian perspectives on one-state solution?
Listen, this question, I will let this in my eyes, and the majority of the Palestinian people think that the one-state solution is the best solution if you ask them. But when you go seriously with the question to them, okay, let's do it. You will they will stand and they will think again. Yeah, because I don't think that we can go directly to one state solution without going through the station of two states. I think every one of us, Palestinian and Israel, need to feel the 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 the, the, the clear identity and uh, uh, to have his freedom, his honor, to feel that he got his dream on his independent countries, and then we will be ready, I think, to pass to the serious solution, to the only solution that we should understand that can work here is one state solution. In the Israel side, I think the problem is more than in the Palestinian side.
Mhm.
You know, here I'm going back. I said in 1947-48, Israel tried to convince us to give 1/3 of the Palestinian land for the Jewish people to have their own state. And we feel more strong than Israel and the Jewish people, so we refuse. Now we try to convince Israel to give us 1/5 of the land to have our independent state. And because Israel feel more strong and we are weak, they refuse. But at the end, this cannot continue the same way. We both cannot have the patience to live more with this conflict, Israel and Palestinian. We need our life, our new generation, our kids. When we look to them, we've seen that we should change this. We should change this, and we should solve this, and we should be ready to pay the price of this.
Mm.
This is the main point, that we both want peace, but what's the price of the peace is the question. What you are ready to pay for this peace? This is the main question. Are we ready to pay this price? Are you ready? Because both we should pay for this. None of us will have a peace for free.
Khaled, thank you. Just if you want to follow up, feel free to write in the chat. There's a few more questions, and I think we've got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get the first question from Nancy asked about how do decisions of the United Nations affect the views amongst the Palestinians? Nancy, if you want to clarify the question, I know there's many resolutions passed in the UN regarding the conflict, regarding Israel, Palestine. How do those affect the perspective, the view among Palestinians when those happen?
It's just give us the feeling that if this decision is serve us, we have, it's just to have the feeling that there's still justice in this world, and to have to be more optimist for the future. But on the reality, this will not change anything. The peace and the decision should came from inside, from from Israel and from Palestine, from the people and from the government. And all this decision without, it's only make us feel good.
So I bring then a question from an Israeli, actually, from Iran. Avidor was one from our roots branch in the Jordan Valley. Iran. So he asked, how do young Palestinians in the West Bank relate to Palestinian identity and the national cause? There is a thought, people are thinking that there's a lot of change in this field. So that's in general, where do you see the difference between the young generation and the old generation in Palestine today, in Palestinian society?
Listen, our fathers, not my generation, the one before, they have been afraid from everything, and we blame them that you afraid, you ran away, you didn't fight, you didn't stand in the war. So and really they deal like this. They've been afraid because not because of Israel. Before Israel, with the Jordanian government, and before with the British government and Mandat, they treat them in a bad way, and they make them, they deal like slaves. They've been afraid from everything, and they talk to us all the time. Take care, don't do anything. And because of this, we react in the against what they told us, because they told us all the time, keep away, don't put yourself in danger. We said we want to die, we want to put ourselves in danger. Now the new generation, I think, is less connect to the beginning of the conflict, to the history of the conflict, and more connect to the future. And this make me optimist. This make me feel good. In all the groups that I collect, and they from the Palestinian society, to join projects, if it's in Roots, if it's in the Parent Circle, if it's in Tariq, the way, everywhere, I have the feeling that those kids, this generation, want the life, want to have fun in his life, want to live his days, and let's think about conflict and fighting and all these things. And they're less interested in the news and what's going on here and there. We follow the news all the time. Our parents follow the news 24 hours. This generation is follow a lot of games, fun. They want to see the sea. They want to go out. They want to have journeys. They want to, and they don't care. They less care about if you go to have fun in the Mediterranean Sea with Israel or with Palestinian only. For him, actually more fantastic if there are people from the other side that they can help him, and he can study from them a new language, a new style of life, new games. It's this is the new generation. This is our kids. This is our new generation, and this is good for me in my eyes. This is good. We need to be open, to love the life, to love to have fun in our life, to because this is God create us to be happy, to have happiness and good. and not to spend our life crying or fighting or suffering or like we are created just to pray for God. We don't need to spend our life to pray for God.
Khaled, go to, thank you. If Ron, you want to follow up, from Mayor asks, between 2007 and 2013, Salam Fayyad was Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, and he promoted a vision where the Palestinians would build state institutions, including great moves for greater democracy, freedoms, before and even without regard to final status negotiations, really building the Palestinian state from within. How is this vision, and Fayyad personally, seen on the Palestinian street today?
First of all, we think that Salam Fayyad is grown in the American schools or in the American styles. He have been in a different position in America, the international bank, and different and we think that he started to build the institution and base a democracy way of life in the Palestinian area. But we don't think that he succeed. First of all, the style, the economic plan of Fayyad, we all agree that it's not for us. It can be work in America in a different area, but not in the West Bank, not in a conflict area.
What was the misfit? What didn't fit?
Because it's a kind of capitalism. It's a kind of, it care about the high level in the Palestinian society, and how to care about their benefit and their interests and their business, and how to protect this business. This is the capitalism. It's not. It cannot work while the whole Palestinian people living under the occupation, suffering every day, and they have to survive on these things. And
to slow down, trickle down, right? Trickle down economics.
Yeah. He put laws that punish the people, enter the people to the jail because of the money and the loan, and he opened, and he pushed. One of the big mistakes that he make, he opened the banks for the people to have loans, مقدمات, loans,
advances, yeah,
advances, a lot of advances. So a lot of people buy cars and houses, and they put themselves in a high responsibility, economic responsibility, and then they find themselves not in America, in the West Bank, and they cannot stand on this responsibility, and most of them have been entered to the jail. And one day when you are arrested because of money, you all your life and all the things that you invest the money on will become the worst thing in your life. If I bought a car, and because of this car I have been in the jail, I don't want this car. If I put a house and I've been in the jail because of this house, I don't want this house. So he bring an unsuitable system to the Palestinian people. Most of a part of the suffer of the people economically is because of that period of time. And then we got how we النجاح doctor, what's his name?
The prime minister after Fayyad.
Yeah. Before Shtay, he's the president of Al Najah University.
Hamdallah?
Hamdallah, Rami Hamdallah. Rami Hamdallah, he do nothing during his time. He do nothing. He didn't correct. He didn't put anything. He continue to manage the things without doing any change. And then Shtaya, we don't know what Shtaya will do. At the beginning, we thought that Shtaya will be. I think Shtaya is different, but also he starts with the Corona, and maybe this make me or a lot of people, we cannot judge him now because he didn't got the opportunity to approve how he is thinking, what he can do. He faced from the beginning with the Corona, and he's still dealing with the Corona, and we are stuck. The Palestinian economy is stuck.
We have just a few minutes left, so I want to go through. There's some big questions also. We're not going to get to everything, but what about the role? Sorry, here about a confederation versus one-state solution. That's a small question. Thanks, Judith. That's
the confederation
versus Medina Achat, one state.
One state solution. I think we should have at the beginning two-state solution with a kind of confederation, maybe. My personal opinion that we should not divide the land, but we can the belong of the people can be managed. Like the Jewish people will belong to the Israel state, the Palestinian people also with the Arab, what you call Arab Israel, those who live inside the green line. I think they should be together with us. We all should be connected to the Palestinian leadership, and the Palestinian leadership and the Israel leadership should be connected. I think the majority of the Palestinian people want to have the same style that you have in Israel, the democracy style in the Palestinian area. They want the Palestinian Authority to study, to learn from the Israel side how to deal in a democratic way with the people. Actually, we say it every day, everywhere, all the time. We are jealous about the way that the Israel government deal with the Israel people, with the Israel citizen, all the time. A lot of people say that I prefer to be arrested by Israel than to be arrested by the Palestinian Authority. Why? Because they treat them, they deal with them in an inhuman way, and this is what we say all the time. We should. The basic thing of the democracy is the respect of the individual, the respect of the one. In the Arab countries and also here in Palestine, we are looking in the opposite way. Like the dignity of the one came from the dignity of the group, of all of you. No, the dignity of the group came from the dignity of the one. You know, there is a story. One day, it's a story that Safta, you say. One day, a man from a family have been arrested by the king, and a group of the family came to the king and said, "We want you to realize this man because he is our leader." And he said, "Is it your leader?" They said, "Yes." He said, "Okay." He accepted to realize him, so he let him away, and then after that he went to visit him, and he find that he is the one who take care about the sheep and you know, رعيها كفاسين. How do you say رعيها كفاسين?
A shepherd.
The shepherd. And he said, "Why you are lying me? You said that he's your leader while he is the shepherd." they said our dignity is came from the dignity of the shepherd first, from the dignity of the smallest one of us. And when we care about him, then we all will be in live in dignity and freedom. This story represents the basic meaning of democracy, and we suffer from this a lot.
But I know we're getting towards the end. I'm going to try to take the rest of the questions, but I just want to say that we'll drip through these, and I think we'll have a closing remarks here. Khaled Bruce, in the name of the young person who is young, asked, "What's the road for young people into leadership in the Palestinian society? Like for young, where's the young leadership? How does the young? Is there a way for younger people to come into leadership in Palestinian society today?"
لو سمعتي التشكيلة ما
Is there a path into leadership for the young generation, young Palestinians today in society? Is there a way for them to, you look at the leadership in Fatah, it's everybody's over 80. How does is there a way for the younger people to enter into leadership positions?
Yes, but it's too difficult. It's not easy. It's still not easy. Still, as I mentioned before, the leadership, the Palestinian leadership is still divided by a limited group of leaders that they change the position from here to there, and the young leadership of the Palestinian society is still away from this place. They got a position here and there, and because the main leadership of the Palestinian society is concentrated in the hand of this limited group. So all the other level of leadership and the youngest leadership feel that they should serve them in order to be safety. In order to continue on your position, you have to accept their rules. You have to do what they want you to do. I think we still need more time to reach the level that the leadership will be changed and got out of this occupation, not Israel occupation, I mean here, this limited group occupation to the authority. I respect them. They are part of the Palestinian people, and they are leaders, and they gave a lot to the Palestinian people. But I think they are expired. They gave what they have, and they need to give a space for others, for other generation to lead, for new way of thinking, for new plans, for new minds, for new blood to go in the Palestinian body. I hope this will happen in a couple of years.
Man. We're going to make just a little, we said we would finish by 11, so anybody who wants to exit the call right now, I'm putting up the link. Thank you for attending and for listening. There's time, we're going to continue. There's a few more questions if Khaled's staying on the call to answer a few more. We really appreciate you coming out tonight, and also any support for Roots. As you can imagine, the work on the ground there's a lot to do. And it all happens a lot with individual donations, and that's where a lot of our support is. So thank you for anybody who can make those contributions. We're really grateful. The links there on the side, there's multiple ways to donate, and tax deductible and all those things are important. And anybody who needs to get off the call now is welcome to get off without hurting anybody's feelings. But I want to move on to some more good questions here also. And Khaled, we'll keep going with 10 minutes.
Joel, I just want to mention next week's event.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Rav Hanan, you came back.
I just like everyone to know that next week, the same time, Sunday, we have our regularly scheduled event, and the subject is the state of cross-border peace-building efforts. Until now, every Sunday, we've been looking at different organizations, different ideas, different concepts. Next week, we'll look at the broad picture of the larger picture of all of the organizations trying to build a better future in this little sliver of land. We're going to have a speaker, Meredith Rothbart, who's done a year of research looking at the general field of peace building. What are the organizations doing? What place do they play? And how can we develop a strategy of all these organizations to really, really move the needle forward and to make a change? And she herself, together with her colleagues, has created an organization called HOPE, in Hebrew, Amal, in Arabic, in Arabic, Amal, in Hebrew, Tikva. And they are doing capacity building, working with organizations, for example, Roots, to help us to get our message out, to hone our strategy, and to work together with the other organizations to create a unified strategy. So if you're interested in really knowing how can we create peace and justice and reconciliation in this land, you should come next week to listen to Meredith speak. That's it.
Great.
Shukran, Hanan. Thank you.
So let's go to Andrew's question here. How many people in the West Bank wish to see the status quo continue, in which the Palestinian Authority cooperates with Israeli security forces, rather than wishing to see the Palestinian Authority disappear and Israel take over full responsibility for the entire West Bank? He's asking, of course, about Palestinians in the West Bank. Is it? Move on, Khaled.
כאילו כמה אחוז מעדיפים שישראל תיקח אחריות בחזרה מאשר
שהרשות כאילו לעשות את התיאום הביטחוני, כן.
Listen, I think emotionally the people talking about that they prefer to have Israel back, although they occupied us, but they deal with or treat us in a higher level of humanity, which is, in my eyes, is bullshit. I think this is only an emotional answer, but originally, basically, I think we need the Palestinian Authority to deal in a different way with the people, with the Palestinian people. We need to change the way that the Palestinian Authority deal with the people. If it's when they arrest them, if it's when they have different political opinions, if it's when they put the laws. Imagine that one of our problems that we now around 13 or 14 years, we don't have the Democratic Council, which is the what we call it legislative council, parliament שלנו, and all the laws that put in by the Palestinian Authority is put in by one person and his advisors. For example, if Munib Masri or any rich man came to President Abbas and asked him, put a law like this and this in order to serve his business, then the second day you will have it signed by Mahmoud Abbas and everywhere in the courts and in the Palestinian systems. So this is since the last 11 or 13 years, we have, I think, more than 300, 400, 500 laws that put in and signed by one person, while actually the legal way is to have this as a suggestion, as a plan, as put this in front of the council, the Palestinian Council, to approve it. And there they have a discussion the first time and the second time and the third time to approve it. Instead of all these steps, any decision can pass immediately by one signature. And this is very bad. We suffer every day from these laws that put in every day and every day and every day. Actually, we don't have a tikkanon. We don't have a serious איך אומרים, תקנון של
Constitution?
constitution, yes.
Protocol.
Huh?
Protocol. You don't have a protocol to.
Protocol or constitution or protocol, Palestinian protocol, a serious protocol that pass the whole steps of approve by the people, by different opinions, and we have only one person sign and spread it every day, and we have to respect, and this has become a law. So I don't think we want the occupation back, because we know how is it before 1987, and this generation, they don't know what is it, why the first intifada start. So I prefer that we will suffer a period of time until we treat ourselves, study how to develop ourselves to deal in a democratic way, instead of giving up and say that what's the Palestinian? The Palestinian Authority, most of it, it's Palestinian people. It can be my brother, my neighbor, my uncle, my from my village, from that place. Still, the problem is not. The problem is more on this limited group that still hold all the things in their hand, all the main position in their hand. This is the main problem. And also, if a new one, if one of from the young leadership enter to this system, he will find himself without any other choice, just to serve this group. We have to break this. We need this to be broke and start a new leadership.
Khaled, what you just said, I mean, everybody knows how much we hear about the dissatisfaction with the Palestinian Authority. And what you just said seems to be so clear, and something that so many people can get Palestinians can support. Who is the voice, and where is that voice, what you just said, heard in Palestinian society? Is there media that says this? Is there newspapers? Is it said on the Facebook? But is there any movement Tnuah in Palestinian society that's saying this? That's on the national radar?
שאומרת מה?
מה שאתה אמרת, שצריכים לבנות את החברה, to make the democracy, to replace the old guard, to bring these new things, to build a society again.
It's you can find it everywhere. You can, if you read the agency, the Palestinian agency, for example, Ma'an, or these places, you will find people right around about this. Seriously, they're right. We have a level of democracy, but not that level. So, and also, if they're right, they mention it in a peaceful way. In a light way, not by attacking in the street. That we have, we have a lot of, as a society, we met in the school, we met in the street, we met in the Matea Evel, we met in the engagement.
The morning tents and
we met when we played cards. We met everywhere, and we have this discussion everywhere, and this represents the street. Everywhere you hear this, like we know we need to change. We need to change the way that the Palestinian Authority deal with the people, and we talk about cases. We discuss cases.
We know you're not a prophet, but like, how do you, at the Lonavi, about, one path says that the way that moves forward is through a revolution, an Arab Spring, a street movement that comes up and reclaims power. Another way says it happens through the institutions themselves. But like you say, with Hamas and Fatah, there aren't elections, so that place where many society, a democracy, can make their change through the voting keeps being held back. So how do you see that voice moving forward, like that change happening?
First of all, I think by God, the time. I know no one can live forever, and I know most of this group they became in the age of 87, 88, 85. So this is this is the first chance that we have, and we make us optimistic that the change is not far away. Secondly, the fact that we have you as our neighbors, and we are looking to all what's happened in the Israel stage, in the Israel side. And again, I will say we feel jealous with what we see, and that give us uh, the motivation to think that we need to be like them or better than them, but at least like them, and we know how they should deal with us. And I think the level of democracy in the Palestinian in the Palestinian area is better than other Arab countries because of this fact. I think the Palestinian people here can say their opinion in a level more than in Jordan, for example, or in the Gulf countries, or in Egypt, or and what's happened in Egypt and in other countries cannot happen here. Imagine if they do like what's happened in other countries, it can be a revolution in 24 hours. The people will go out and demonstrate on the streets. Uh, uh, I think we are going to the right direction. I think we will achieve. We will have. We will succeed to have the best democracy system in between the Arab countries, because we already have, and we will be more and more. Maybe Lebanon is close to us, or less or more. Uh, uh, this is one of the occupation's goodnesses that we study from Israel. A lot of the democracy values and the experience.
Oh, we know how to throw an election, I can tell you that much.
No, you can look, you can see every day in the social media stories how Palestinians react to a policeman or a soldier in a way that they can he can cry, he can talk, he can לקלל, and that explain what we feel when we live under this, when we try to put ourselves on this system.
Khaled, kavod gadol. Thank you.
Thank you. Shukran ilkum.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's actually a meeting. It's like a discussion. Not. I don't want to feel that we have a lecture. We have been friends that sit and discuss the things. شكرا للجميع. Thank you all of you. شكرا كثير. شكرا.
I'll see you next week. We'll see people next week, inshallah.
Thank you, Khaled. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Good night, everybody. Have a nice night. And I don't know where's the day, where's night. I don't know. For some of us, it's a night. For some of us, it's a morning. So thank you. Whatever you
We'll
have,
stop before it becomes morning.
we'll
So.
have a good time. شكرا
Have a
جزيلا.
good night.
يلا ليلة
مع
طيبة.
السلامة. مع السلامة.
شكرا كثير.
عفوا. شكرا لكم جميعكم.